Hi, welcome back to my channel. I realised I forgot to do an intro to this video. So my previous video was the packing for Cornwall. We of course are now back from Cornwall, and I did a few get readies with me's whilst I was there, using my daily makeup bag for autumn plus a few extras. So I actually didn't wear makeup the whole time I was there, so I've got 4 looks for you. 2 are kind of more everyday looks that I use for just going around Cornwall and the beach and stuff, and then 2 for when we went out for lunch as a family meal, so it was a bit more, but all still very everyday and makeup looks. So I really hope you enjoy. Thank you for watching. Leave any requests for future videos down below, and yeah, I hope you enjoy.
Okay, so on to look number 1. This is one of my kind of more basic everyday looks. So I did start prepping my skin with a bit of skincare. So I used the Evolve Day Cream followed by the Q&A Caffeine Eye Cream. I do use these every day, but I didn't necessarily show them on camera every day, so I just thought I'd show you in the first look. And then I'm going in with a Hello Sunday SPF 50 primer to prep the skin a bit further. And now I'm going to show you kind of my new favourite way of applying kind of bronzer and stuff. So I'm actually going to go with my bronzer first. This was the Hint Beauty Concealer, but in the shade Deep to act as a bronzer. I'm using my big fluffy Real Techniques powder brush, and I'm just creating more of a wash over my skin, and it gives a bit more of a natural, I guess, sun-kissed look to the skin, I felt like, especially when you're in Cornwall, and the weather was actually, apart from the weekend, was pretty lovely. So it just added like a little bit of a sun-kissed look to the skin, which I thought was really pretty. And I actually used the same brush to apply my blusher. So this is the Lily Yellow Lip and Cheek tint in Dahlia, which is kind of a very similar shade to the bronzer, just slightly more peachier toned. And I felt it just gave a bit more of a natural finish to the skin, and like I caught a bit of the sun. Then I'm going in with the RMS and Cover Up and use it as concealer. So I did take the I took the Iconic London concealer brush, and initially I stippled it onto all the areas that I wanted to add the coverage, and then I go ahead and blend it out afterwards. I just do this just to let it sit there for a bit, let it dry a little bit, just to give a bit of extra coverage. So this is the Real Techniques Instapot brush. I'm just using a bit more of the RMS just to kind of tidy up a little bit around the edges of the blusher and bronzer, and then of course I'm just blending out the actual concealer. And yeah, I just really like this kind of way of doing my very, very basic everyday skin. I feel like it gave a bit more natural look. And then going in and setting with the Madara Air Equal powder and using my Real Techniques setting brush for this. I did give my skin a little bit of a spritz of the e.l.f. setting spray as well. Brows, kind of my usual go-to at the moment, the Barry M Hold Up Brow Gel, and then I do go in with the ABH Brow Powder as well to finish that off. So like I said, my brows I do every day anyway. And then I'm going in with the Ilia Eye Stylist in Noble. I'm just applying this to the upper lash line, purely on the outer portion only. And then I'm just taking a little fluffy brush just to blend it out. So I kept the eyes very simple for today, just a bit of definition on the lash line. And then going in with the Ilia Limitless Mascara in the shade Before Dawn, just on my upper lashes. For lips, I'm taking the New By Nature lip liner in Rose, filling in my lips, and I think I line them and I fill them in. And then I go in with the Olivia Whisper lip gloss, which is very much coming to the end, but just a bit of a gloss. So that was the look number 1. So this is a bit more of my simple, basic looks for the day, and yeah, just something very nice and light and pretty. So look number 2, this is one of the first ones where we went out for kind of a family meal for lunch. So I did a little bit more coverage and a little bit more to my eyes and stuff. So still with the Hello Sunday primer, but I went in with foundation this time. So I'm using the Madara Skin Equal foundation, and this is one I have to kind of unscrew and scrape out because I'm about to run out of this product. I didn't actually need my Kiko foundation in the end. If you watched the packing video, I bought it as a backup. I actually didn't need it in the end because, like I said, I didn't actually wear makeup every day in the end, just on a few selected days. RMS and Cover Up again for concealer. And again, I do that thing where I stipple it on and let it sit there. Going back in with the Hint Beauty Concealer in Deep as a bronzer. Still using the same technique as I did in the first one, where I use my powder brush just to give a bit more of a natural finish. Admittedly, I did go in a bit heavier with the deep concealer this time, so you can see it's a bit more bronzy on my forehead. But I still feel like I quite like the slightly more blended out placement of using this brush. And I did switch to the Real Techniques sculpting brush to apply Dahlia to my cheeks, mainly on the high points. And I did go with highlighter for this look, so I took the Pie highlighting drops in rose gold on the back of my hand, and I used that same brush and just stippled onto the tops of my cheekbones. And a little bit above the brow bone as well. And then I went in with the Real Techniques Insta Pop brush just to kind of blend out the concealer that I had left to sit on the skin. Back in with the Madeira powder, but this time I actually used the powder puff that I brought with me because I wanted a bit more of I just wanted my face to be a bit more set this time round. And I actually find with the powder puff, it does set my skin a little bit more than just the brush. For a simple everyday look, the brush is suitable and it works really well. But when I want something a bit more locked in, the powder puff works really well. Elf setting spray again, and then just do my usual brows. Back in with the Lily Lolo eye primer for this one, because I am going to use the Beauty Bay Nude Matte palette for this particular look. So I'm taking this first shade here. Apologies, I don't have the palette in front of me, so I can't remember the shade names. But the top middle one, just to kind of act as a crease shade, a bit of a transition shade. Going in with, I believe that's Raw Sienna, on a slightly smaller fabric brush. And again, it's going through the crease, but I'm mainly focusing on the outer portion and bring it onto the lid as well. I go for quite a soft, smoky eye for this look. So again, very everyday appropriate, I think, even though it is slightly bolder than yesterday's look. Then I'm just deepening up ever so slightly onto the outer portion of the eye. Then I'm going with a pencil brush. I believe this is the shade Cinnamon. I'm running this along the upper lash line, and I also run it a little bit along the lower lash line, just on the outer portion. It's a much lighter shade than I'd usually use for this particular placement. I like the softness of it, and I don't want to go too heavy overboard. Then I'm just taking some of Nothing Else and just popping this over the lid to kind of set the areas that didn't have shadow on, and set the primer. And then I'm going in and coating my upper and lower lashes with the Ilia mascara. So like I said, just a really nice, simple, soft, smoky eye. Back in with the Rose lip liner to line and fill in the lips. And then for lipstick, I go in with the Colourpop lipstick in the shade, I want to say Crazy, something crazy. But it's not available anymore anyway, but it's a nice kind of pink mauve tone. So that completes look number 2. Okay, look number 3 is very similar to the first one, where it's a very simple, everyday look. Kind of one we're going down to the beach on. So back in with SPF 50 primer. I'm doing the same bronzing technique as well with this one. Now I did actually switch up the blusher. So I went in with Rare Beauty's blusher Enjoy, just to add a bit of a pop of orange. Just something a bit bolder to the cheeks. But I still used the same brush actually to blend it out, and it worked quite nicely, I thought. The blending it out. And I go back in with the highlighting drops as well this time, just add a bit of a glow. And then I will go in with the RMS and Cover Up and stipple onto my usual areas to cover, but also then it helped blend out the bronzer and blusher just to make it a little bit more blended into the skin. So yeah, I've been really enjoying that technique of doing the bronzer first and the blusher, and particularly with that brush as well, just give it a bit more natural look. Here I'm just setting again with the Madeira powder, the Elf setting spray, and then filling my brows as I usually do. And this time I actually didn't bother with the eyes. I kind of just added some mascara, but left it at that. So just coating the upper lashes with the brown mascara and leaving the eyes as it is. And then for lips, I went in with the Inica Lip Crayon in Tan Nude. And that's it. Again, like I said, that was another one of the very basic, everyday looks. So on to the final look. This is another one where we went out for a family meal, so it's a little bit more of a fuller coverage type of look. So back here with a Madara foundation for this one. And I did actually apply a bit too much foundation, so it did give me a bit of fuller coverage. But I still think the overall look is one that's very suitable for an everyday look as well. So this time I actually went in with the concealer first and popped into my usual areas. And I have to apologise. I didn't realise until editing this back that you can very much just see my bra hanging off the radiator in the background. So please ignore that. And probably if I had not drawn attention to it, you may not have even noticed, but hey ho. Going back in with the Hint Beauty concealer as my bronzer. And then I do use the Dahlia blusher as well. And I just made sure to take it down my neck because I did go quite heavy again with the bronzer and stuff. I actually didn't add a highlighter to this look. I actually kept it slightly less glowy. There's still a nice glow with the creams, but it's just a little bit less glowy than previous looks. And again, using the powder puff to really make sure my skin is locked and loaded. And yeah, I've really been enjoying using a powder puff since trying out the Kosas loose powder. Oh yeah, and I did actually break my powder, so I'm hoping this is kind of going to help use it up as well. So I didn't need to bring my Kosas loose powder in the end because I had just about enough, but it was always good to have a bit of a backup. Brows, same as always, the GRWM gel, which I'm almost running out of. So if you've got any recommendations for a better one, or if you think I should go back to Kosas, let me know. And yeah, leave recommendations down below. Lily Lolo eye primer. And then for the eyes today, I went in with the Lily Lolo loose mineral shadow in Miami Taupe. And I just focused this in the crease and also along the lower lash line. I'm using I believe it's a Real Techniques base shadow brush for this. It's something very simple. And then I go in with the Illamasqua gel liner in Oblique. And I just did a little wing, quite a smallish wing, just on the outer portion. I don't bring it all the way across at all. Yeah, just to help frame the eyes. And then, of course, I go back in with the Ilia Limitless Mascara in brown. And then for lips, I wanted to go with something a bit bolder. I really wanted like a rusty brown type of, rusty red type lip. So I used the W7 lip liner in brown first to line my lips and fill them in. And then I went in with Benecos's Just Red to try and create that kind of rusty red look. And then that completes the final look. So I really hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Leave any future requests down below. And I'll see you all in my next video. Oh, and let me know which one of these four was your favourite. I think this last one actually might be mine, especially with the lip. But yeah, thank you for watching.